Hello, and welcome back. I didn't even change. I just kept my work shirt. Didn't even brush my teeth. Fucking yellow from coffee. Swearing. I had a comment on my previous video this morning, and I felt compelled to make a video about it. A video about that comment. Because, number one, it's something that I feel extremely confident speaking about because it's the thing I've been practicing for 6 years. And the value in this is extremely important. And I believe that all of spirituality, well, maybe not all, but related to a lot of what people need today. So today's needs, spirituality, in today's needs, this would be extremely valuable, is what I'm trying to say. Anxiety, you hear a lot of people talk about anxiety. Anxious, you're anxious. A lot of stress, worry. People take medicine at a higher, far higher volume and doses than ever in human history because of stress. And it's funny because humanity has managed to make it to where we are today, and we used to one time maybe have anxiety about being eaten at night by a lion, and now it's about talking to someone tomorrow morning. So it's funny that the brain can generate such a high level of discomfort in the body right now just by thinking about something that's coming. And it's largely because we're trained to seek comfort, but that's another video. This video is going to be about how to feel emotions, heavy, dark, how to do it. Everyone is going to be at a different stage in their spiritual development, which will determine what you're ready to tackle right now. You need to be easy on yourself when you're doing this type of work, when you're facing anything that you normally run from, that you normally would distract yourself from feeling. Because it may bring back certain memories, and you may not be ready to feel those memories. A lot of times we bury certain thoughts and experiences deep into the subconscious. And essentially, when you face your emotions, you're entering a state of awareness that brings everything to light. And what I mean by that is that you're going to see thoughts that have been buried for a long time. You're bringing, and that's what they mean by bring the light, bring your awareness into the dark recesses of your subconscious. So as you begin to feel certain emotions, you're going to notice that certain things come up. So you need to be really gentle, very gentle. So you want to create a space for yourself where it's calm. You know exactly what it is that will trigger you. Just look inside. Imagine being in that situation and then play the story in your mind and feel what happens. Feel what you feel as you see what happens. And that'll give you a guide as to how to create a nice environment. So at first, what you do is you bring yourself to a warm, comfortable environment, welcoming, open to your taste. And then you simply turn in. You're not looking for any thought in particular. You just go in. How do you go in? How? Well, instead of being focused on your environment, focus on your heartbeat. Your heartbeat. Focus on maybe the sensation of your skin, the friction. Choose something that you're bringing your attention to and maintain that focus there. Usually, in this case, you would want to bring your focus to how you feel. So, as you do this, what types of emotions arise? Do I feel this to be irritating? And I already did quite some time ago. So I could feel, and even now, a building resistance towards this. I feel it in my chest and neck area. I'm just watching, observing the physical sensations that are related to the emotional state that comes up, right? So I notice that there's certain pressure in my body when certain emotions. So for example, if I'm angry, teeth will clench, fists. So that's really what you're doing. You're just observing kind of what happens as you bring your attention to how you feel. You could do it with a nice song. How do you feel when you're playing this music? But when you feel ready, and you will sometimes, it might be time to go into the darker stuff. You don't need to bring up anything at all. If you're already feeling in a kind of, a negative mood, it will come up on its own. On those days, those are the thoughts that you observe. It's the uncomfortable part of your progression towards your building your inner strength, being okay with experiencing whatever happens here, especially in the situations where you're not going to be physically harmed in any way, or no one that you know is going to be physically harmed, and you know that the suffering generated is mind generated. So in those situations, you can face those types of things when you know that there's a lot of negativity around it, because there's not really a lot that's going to come out of it. You're not hurting anyone. You could say that you're hurting yourself, but you're not really. But that's another type of video. So I do this for everything, and I find that everything is an opportunity to observe my emotional responses to the situation I find myself in, or the story that I find my thoughts are generating about something. I find that by practicing this, you start to, it's not like you choose to change. It's that you've seen this so many times that you kind of just sometimes just kind of get over it and move past it. It usually just happens fairly quickly whenever the time comes. Maybe for example, you might notice that every time somebody cuts you off in the car. I might use this example often, but whatever. Somebody cuts you off in the car and you feel that, there it is, you get angry, something comes up, and you're in your car, you're by yourself, and you've noticed this now for, it's been a year, And the more you see it, the more you will start to understand that there's not really a purpose to the anger. It doesn't actually give you what you want from it, but you do immediately create a negative state in the body. You literally create a state of disease. Take a look at videos on how anger affects the body, and you'll see for yourself that letting that continue over and over seems to be kind of crazy a little bit. You start to get that type of understanding about your own behaviors. You see yourself from a different perspective, and from watching your behaviors over time, certain ones, they slip, they go away. You just see yourself not being angry anymore when somebody cuts you off. You find just all of a sudden that instead of angry first, you have the understanding first. And because you have the understanding that, it's not something that's valuable for you or him or her to get angry before you get cut off, then when you get cut off, you remain in that peaceful state. So watchfulness and watching your emotions is really about that. It's about recognizing the needlessness of overindulging into the story that your thinking generates based on how the body feels. It gives you some clarity, not into why necessarily you're doing it, but you just get to a point where you see it so much that it's just, you really lose you lose the interest in it, and you feel that it's not valuable. It loses its power over making you feel under it. It's like you can only hold your breath for so long. Have you ever tried holding your breath? If not, try it as a practice for feeling uncomfortable. And what you'll notice is that when you feel uncomfortable long enough, if you really bring your attention to it, and when you can't breathe, all your attention is on trying to breathe, trust me. When you put yourself in that situation, you automatically will look for breath. You will notice your body will automatically, even if you try your hardest, you will just, I've almost drowned before. It happens. It's just the way it is. I took 3 mouthfuls of water. I swallowed 2 of them. I can't remember if I swallowed the third. Maybe I got up and spit it out. Anyways, it was horrible. So, and in the same way, when you watch yourself go through things, even if it's a positive thing, even if you watch yourself always doing what you think is a good thing, you might eventually recognize that you're only doing it to keep this person in your life, maybe, and this person might be hurting you. So what you sometimes think is good is actually more hurt. You see, so watching brings all of this to light. And you really want to give yourself all the space in the world and the time in the world to allow what happens to happen, as to allow what changes take place in you when they take place in you. When you feel something is right and you go into it, fine. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Anytime you notice that there's a part of you that feels angry or is anticipating or expectation, disappointment, anything that is about your spiritual progress, anything that is about your spiritual progress is going to be your mind trying to sneak in and take charge of you again. You're going to feel the ego try to sabotage and claim, I did this, I am doing this. Especially if you feel like a victim, you're going to feel, I'm finally getting this. And you're going to feel some sort of relief from what you feel was weighing you down. So that's a falsity as well. Keep in mind that you're always going to experience positive and negative in life. It's like a back and forth. So, and that is in general terms and for specific things in your life as well. So you're always going to face the two, because when you're in one, let's say everything is really negative, it's hard to feel and see things from a positive point of view when you're really feeling bad. So you can only see what you can only see, or what you can see when you're in negative state. So there's certain things here that you need to see. It might not be fun, but it's going to swing back, and it does. And then when you're here, you're not thinking about, sometimes you feel, you might be feeling positive for 3 months, and you might say to yourself, wow, I can't even imagine what it would be like to feel like shit again. All of a sudden the ego starts claiming, oh no, I'm over that now. I've been through that. And you start talking to people as though you did, and giving people's life lessons about it. And then all of a sudden, it happens again. So that's what happens, is that the ego takes the ship, and then life needs to slap you and say, what are you doing? The ego took charge again. You're back unconscious. You see, so you need to remain watchful always, because the ego is not going to just stop like that. You need to observe your innerness, how you feel about everything, so that the story that's created about how you feel doesn't start to run away on itself and create an identity about what just happened. Oh, I can't believe this did that, and that guy did that. And some people will hold on to that for their whole lives, maybe just a month, a year, and then they'll treat everybody different because in that situation, this happened like that. And now I'm going to make sure that never happens again. So you harden yourself against. So feeling your emotions is really about recognizing these types of patterns. You see that you are in a way being very immature. It's about discovering your own immaturities. And I've read once in a book called the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. Recommend greatly the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. Anyways, I read once in that book, I can't remember, actually, I think it just slipped my mind. It should come back. I can't even remember what I was talking about. Oh well. Don't you love it when that happens? So the ego comes in and it wants to sabotage. It wants to claim the story as mine. It wants to say that I did it. So you want to make sure that you are watching your inside. Something almost fell. So that you don't get fooled, and that you don't have to repeat that negative and positive cycle about everything over and over. Certain things in your life you'll eventually have enough understanding about that you don't get confused by your ego anymore, and you're able to see what the ego is going to attempt because you've seen it a million times. So you begin to know what to expect from yourself. And what happens is, it's kind of miraculous. It is miraculous that in seeing yourself, it's almost as though a person might assume that I went to psychology, and taken, these courses and all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I've read a lot about this, because I wanted to have the proper language. But that doesn't mean that I'm speaking from a book. I'm speaking fluently about it because I'm going on my personal experiences from watching my inside and seeing, oh, this is what happens, that happens, that happens. And then, so that your knowing happens by itself. The things you know thyself, happens on its own when you simply move out of the way. When I say move out of the way, I mean recognize the ego by looking to see your responses, your reaction, overreaction to anything happening. In doing that, you keep a certain clarity, And what happens to you doesn't get buried into your subconscious. So again, it's very simple. You just watch. It really is that simple. I've read it and I've tried it, and it really does work. You create a sort of another level of awareness in your inner space of all of what you perceive about your world, and a new dimension kind of is created. It's what it felt like for me. It felt as though, without realizing, watching created a new perspective inside of me that I can identify as and see from a point of view that isn't tied into the emotional responses. You're separated slightly so that when you see it, it doesn't completely overwhelm you, but instead you notice you're going to get overwhelmed. So as you notice you become overwhelmed, you see it, and it kind of gives you this, wow, there it is. And that, wow, there it is the recognition, the recognizing of the ego. And you know that you don't know, you feel that it never got you. You didn't take the same road you normally take. Now, if you go, oh my God, this is great, there the ego jumped in again. But if you remain and you notice that the ego is also the one that says, oh yes, then again, you remain in this fluidity. Now, you don't have to stay with it. Eventually what happens is the knowing keeps you in a very I feel okay state of mind about everything that happens. And that just strengthens over time. And this is what I read in Buddhism in the book. You begin to, well, the idea is to see your negative reactions the same way a grandparent, a very loving grandparent, would see their grandchild. So if their grandchild is maybe having a temper tantrum, the wise grandparent might just laugh, and pick up the child and swing him in the air and just kind of hug him around. And you never know, the kid might snap out of it, or maybe not. And maybe the grandparent won't do that. He might just observe. But the point is that loving acceptance from the beginning is what starts to is what it is. I believe is important to cultivate. Recognize that you're not doing that you're being hard on yourself, and you're not being loving. So it brings me back to the whole beginning of this video. You need to be loving. When you go into these practices, you need to see yourself from that point of view, as though you love yourself. You love all of yourself. You really do. You just don't recognize it yet. And the more you watch, the more you'll see it yourself. So with that, I leave you there. Quite a liberating video, this one. So wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is that you're watching this video, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Peace.